This is a good exercise if you have a horse that tends to drag his feet or not pick them up. That's a lot of walking horses do that. So what I'm doing is not making him jump these jumps, but just walk over them. And it's also good practice, so if you get up to a log, your horse actually knows how to pick his feet up to get over it, and let him investigate it and just do it at their own speed. So you'll see I'm just walking them around it. It'll also help to break up the pacing horses, at the walk. So you just do it nice and slow so they think about where their feet are, because a lot of these horses, especially if they're lazy, do not think about their feet and they just drag them around. So this makes them think about where their feet are, makes them pick them up, and it makes them use their abdominal muscles and their back. And it'll make them stronger over time, and so it'll make their top line better, and it'll help with their stifles as well. Another horse I'm doing a little jumping exercise with, but him I'm actually getting him to trot and jump it. Well, sometimes. Because I want to strengthen his back end. So we're going to go the other way in a minute, because he's been going this way for a little bit in time. Good job. Good boy. Switch hands. So once they can walk over it pretty well, even if they're pacey, see how he switched to a pace? This little jump will make them more trotty. And it helps their canter. See, now he switched to a trot. So now he's getting used to it, so now he's not jumping as much, but I want him to rock back on his hind end, so I'm going to crack the whip a little bit as he gets there. He's like, you don't scare me, lady. Okay. So this guy, I like doing this for because he doesn't see so well, and he gets a little nervous going over things, so I like to make him walk over obstacles, so we just build his courage up and his belief that he can do this. Okay, so if they don't like going over things, the trick is not to avoid those things, but try to build their confidence at home on things that are similar. So when you get to those obstacles, they can go over them with confidence, or they have an idea how to get over something instead of just struggling and dragging their legs over it. Okay. Good job, buddy. It's okay if he hits them. Don't make a big deal if the horse is nervous. But see, he tries so hard. Once he knows his job, he's like, oh, I'm supposed to go over these poles. I don't have to help him that much to go over it. He just does it. Keep going. You're making me a liar. He's like, I was just checking. See if I still had to do it. And these other poles that he's coming up on, they're kind of separated. I didn't do that on purpose. He hit them and they separated, and I figured, well, trees aren't going to be all together, so he needs to learn how to go over those too. Another exercise with poles, so you can see he's a little pacey. Working on his canter to the right. Poles are spaced 3 of my steps away from each other. We're going to fix that pole. Anytime they hit it, just go over and fix it. Try to put it back where it was. So 3 of my steps, so that means this. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So like 3 strides. You can say canter in front of the pole. It'll help you canter. So it helps to get that rocking motion, especially from the pacey ones. And then I'm also working on trying to get this horse to trot more to help him with his gaits. Canter. So see, that was kind of half cantering and half gaiting, so not so good. If I can, I'll try to get him to walk in. It's hard to video and do all this at the same time. So I just relaxed my body, so he walked. About 3 feet in front of it, I'm going to say canter. Canter. Good. And I usually go maybe 3 or 4 times around, then I change direction. So we're going to change direction. This used to be his worst way, but now it's his better way. Canter. So he came in at an angle, so the spacing wasn't exactly right, but he made up the stride. Canter. Boy. In the end, I try to get the canter from the walk. So I like to have them do it from the walk, but if they pace in, it's okay as long as they change their feet correctly. Canter. Now he's on the wrong lead. He's leading with his right front leg. It was coming out further, and we're going to the left, so we want the left front lead. People get confused with this, but what I mean is both legs are going to come forward. The right leg's actually going to come forward first, but I want the left leg to come more forward. Canter. So he's on the wrong lead again. Now he's on the correct lead. So, and you don't want to stop until they do it right. If they're having a hard time and they do it right once, that's when you quit. And then the next day you try for more. But if you keep going until they're exhausted, then you'll end up on a bad note, and then the horse thinks that's the answer. Canter. No. So he's still messing around a little bit, but he's like, what are you doing with that phone thing? So it's hard to, you know, videotape. He cuts the turn, and I'm trying to watch the video and watch him. So, canter. Still wrong lead. So here we go. If I can get his weight out, it's usually a full switch. Now, he was still on the wrong lead, and he went faster. So I'm going to give him lots of heads up time. Get ready. Canter. So you see, he's still got the wrong lead. It's okay. It's not like I can tell him, hey, pick up your left lead. Usually he's pretty good, but what's probably happening is when it goes down, well, now he's on the correct lead because something spooked him. So there, that helped. And then we got a little trot and a little gait. But he's probably going downhill and changing his balance. So I'm not letting him go the other way. That's good because I got to fix the pole anyhow. So I'm trying to get him set up for it. Now he's on the correct lead. So if you turn them out, that usually helps them to get on the correct lead if you turn them to the outside of the arena. So that was good. So I want to quit with that one. So with this horse, he's had stifle problems over the years. He's a walking horse, very loose stifles, bred for the show ring. And so I use poles with him all the time because he gets pacey. And he also, let's not watch him go to the bathroom. He gets pacey, but also weaken his stifles, and he had some surgery on his stifle too. And this is his bad way to the right. He can canter very well. So the Cavalettis help me with a couple things. It helps me strengthen his stifles. It helps him push off of his back end to make his back end stronger. And then it also helps his top line because he had problems with his top line in the past when he wasn't being worked. So you'll see me with different horses doing different things with the poles depending if they're trotty or they're pacey. There he was on the wrong lead. But if they're pacey, poles help a lot. If they have problems with the weak back end, don't know where to put their feet, or they're weak in their stifles, or they're trippy, poles will also help you with that. So you have to figure out the spacing, what helps your horse and what you're trying to accomplish. That you might want to see. He has a beautiful trot. He's not trotting right now. Now he's trotting. He does like to cheat. He can get out of doing something. He's a nice canter. There's his trot. So if I don't get over here in time, he tries to cheat. You'll see he's picking his knees up much higher now that he's trotting, and I'm even making him kind of go over some obstacles so he's paying attention to his feet. So it'll help his gait, his canter, and also help him to learn to pay attention to his feet. It's hard to video and then make them go over this. Okay, you get the idea. So this is another horse I'm exercising over poles. He was pacey. You'll see he's trotting now. He was pacey and trippy, so before I ride him, I'm using these as like some calisthenic exercises to get him to pick his feet up, to pay attention, and I'd rather have him a little on the trotty side when he's loose because it's going to help his gait. So all I'm going to have to do is slow him down, and once I get a little bit more trottiness in him, then when I slow his gait down, he won't be so pacey. He'll either, you know, have a nice flat walk and a running walk, maybe a rack. But it's hard because some of these horses are hardwired to pace, and sometimes you got to use a lot of poles to get them to trot, or you know, some of them you can't get to trot, but at least you can get them to canter, and that separates their legs a little bit more. So you can use jumps, but you'll see I raise these up off the ground, only one's on the ground, because otherwise he doesn't pick his legs up and he's lazy, so he doesn't use himself. So this has made a huge difference. So even when he's going around and he starts gaiting, you'll see he's not pacing anymore. He's doing more of like a racking gait or step pace. So that's a big improvement, but trying to help him on the ground before I try anything under saddle, so he has an idea. Oh, I forgot, there's many of you out there, you hear the word trot and you panic, but you're okay with the horses pacing. So there's many horses that trot when they're loose and they gait beautifully. Okay? And people wouldn't even think they're gaited because you just see them trot. So if when the horse is loose, we get them to trot, again, it kind of squares up their gait and helps them if they're pacey. I'm not going to trot him under saddle because that, you know, then you got to teach the owner specific things. So I'm not going to trot him at all under saddle. I'm just doing it on the ground. So it's going to help us with a bunch of stuff. But don't let it panic you when you hear trot, because people are so stuck like, you're never supposed to let them trot. It's bred in them. Many of them pace, trot, or gait. So, and they still gait very well. It even just helps their canter. So don't think that trotting on the ground when they're loose is going to ruin their gait. Talk about more about calisthenics exercises. So many of these horses, especially these walking horses, can be overly calm and they can be overly hyper, and it can be in the same horse, and some people don't understand that. So that's why some of these guys, nothing's wrong with them. They're, you know, when they're going fast, they don't trip and they're fine. And then when they go slow, they fall asleep. So what we're trying to do is keep these horses, if you have one, awake when you're riding them slower. You might have to make circles, stop, back up, leg yield. Give them things to do every couple minutes so they don't fall asleep on their feet. You see, he's not falling asleep in here because he's got too much to worry about. Or, you know, when you're riding them, go on and off the trail, make sure they're picking up their feet. You also have to make them think that tripping's a bad thing, because some of these horses, they trip, they fall down, they sit there, they eat some food, or they just lay there and they just don't care, and you're like, what the heck? I've never seen a horse like that. Well, I've seen it in a lot of these lazy gaited horses, walking horses, and some of the other ones. So you have to make them think when they hit those poles, those front feet, because those are the ones that are going to make you fall on the ground. The back ones aren't as big a deal. That it's a bad thing. So when they trip and you know it's a lazy horse, you want to either, you know, tap them with a stick, maybe put some spurs into them, stop them and back them up. But you want to associate it, like I say with all things, the behavior you don't want, him tripping, with something uncomfortable for him. So he doesn't think tripping is uncomfortable. So you want to make sure that once you figure out it's a laziness thing and not any other issues, that you associate it, see, I just snapped the whip, like wake up, with something uncomfortable, so he doesn't want to hit it. It's just like when they jump, if you got a horse that's dragging its feet, you know, they might have to do some exercises where they're doing gymnastic exercises up and over things and changing the height so the horse starts thinking about it. So let me change his direction. So sometimes now he's trotting, other times he's gaiting. I don't care which right now, I just want to make sure he's picking up his feet while I'm talking. So when you're walking around, you know, try and take them over things, give them little jobs to do. A lot of people want to ride these horses on loose floppy reins, and especially the walking horses really weren't built for that. And so when you do, they get really long, lanky, strung out, and I'm trying to untwist my stick at the same time. And they get strung out, and then they start tripping because they're being lazy and not paying attention. He's like, holy cow, where did my mama drop me? So you want to make sure that these horses you ride together, it doesn't mean you can't be on a loose rein. You can at times, but you don't want those really loose reins where you're holding the end of the buckle, like the buckle of the rein. If the reins attached together, that's what that means. If you have a horse that doesn't pay attention and trip, because if you ride it like that, he's going to fall asleep. So you have to engage him, make him gait some, make him do some other exercises, and then you might be able to let him go on a loose rein for a minute or a couple minutes, and then you shorten back up and put him back to work. Okay? Otherwise, it makes the horse too dangerous, or they get labeled as a tripper. But again, these horses weren't bred to walk like this. That's not what you see in all the videos, is it? But that's how a lot of people want to ride them. So we have to engage them, make them walk out, do a little flat walk, because a lot of them, if they get going too slow, they just fall asleep on their feet. And maybe it's, you know, we bred some of them too calm. But you're also, again, if you have one of the calm ones that are calm, but then they get anxious or have issues, you want to work some of that energy out, and you want to be exercising their mind so they're not reacting to other things. Give them little jobs to do, okay? But you see now as he's walking over these poles, he's picking his feet up, right? He's picking them up much higher than they were. And we did see that his feet were a little sore, so that was part of the stumbling. So now he has boots on, and now he's not stumbling in here anymore. The worst he's done is hit a pole or two. And then the poles, look at that gait. Okay, there he got a little pacey, so now watch and see what happens. He's going downhill, makes him pacier. Now see, that pole's helped him get a better gait. Now he's pacey. Now the pole helped him to get a better gait. There he's more a little bit of a step pace. So, but it's because he's going slower now and not paying much attention. So I gotta pick that other pole up over there. But you want to make sure you keep them awake on their feet, give them jobs to do, and don't let them fall asleep. And just realize that poles can help. You have to use them in the right way. If your horse is really trotty and your horse is tripping, would I use poles? Yes, but I wouldn't use as many poles or as high, but you definitely could. But under saddle, it's different because, again, we don't want them to trot. So if you use poles, you have to use them here and there, and be aware of what you're doing. And if you're messing their gait up, of course, don't do as many poles. Okay, now I want you to watch this horse. Big walking horse. This is the one that was a little lazy, but now we've really woken him up. And he was tripping, so we're making sure nothing's wrong with him. So I got the pole there, but watch how easily he can back over the pole. Testing these horses for certain things. If he was neurologic or had some other issues that was causing him to trip, he wouldn't be able to back up over that so well. And I tested that by running him around and going over the other poles. He was just lazy. Once he got like, oh, I better pick up my feet, he was quite good going over all those poles. But a horse that is neurologic or has EPM will step over the poles, fall over the poles, and each day you do it, instead of getting better over time, they'll actually usually get worse. And a horse that's getting better is building up muscle and figuring out what to do. A horse that is getting worse more than likely has a problem, and that's why they're not getting better. So watch him back up again. Back. And I'm using the bridle because I want to make sure he responds to the big correctly. Up, good boy. So he stepped on the pole, but otherwise he balanced himself well. I know a lot of you people aren't medical, but the medical people will understand a little more. If you're neurologic, you can't really balance yourself. So if your horse can step on a rock or a pole and balance himself like on one foot like this, you know, the vets don't get to check that stuff. So it's you helping them and telling them. But he just balanced himself on that pole with his back leg. Did fine. So I don't think anything's wrong with him. I think he's lazy. Sorry. He's not using himself and he thinks he's the boss. That's the other problem. So we got to make sure your mom knows she's the boss and to get it after you. But otherwise, very nice horse. So I'm going to take him, walk him around, and see if he trips on anything out there.